In the cold silence of deep space, an alien fleet drifted across the stars. Their sensors picked up something unusual, something that should not have been there. A single vessel floated alone, dark and quiet, yet strangely alive. It had no markings, no signals, no identification codes. In their records, this vessel was already known. It was written in every archive of every great alien empire. Do not approach. The vessel does not respond. For centuries, it had been seen and avoided. Fleets had tried to claim it, but all failed. The ship never opened its doors, never spoke, and never moved unless provoked. Yet somehow, it was still there, surviving endless ages. The alien commanders watched from their control chambers. Their voices were uneasy, their eyes shifting with fear. "Why is it here again?" one whispered. "It should not even exist anymore. It has denied every race that tried to command it." The ship was not only a vessel, it was a warning. The archives told old stories of powerful empires that once tried to capture it. None returned. Whole fleets vanished into silence. The mysterious vessel gave nothing, no clue of its origin, no hint of its power. It was said that the ship itself chose who could enter. And until now, no one had ever been chosen. The fleet attempted contact once more. High-frequency waves were sent, ancient codes transmitted, universal signals fired across the void. But as always, the vessel ignored them. Its black surface reflected the starlight, its edges sharp like the blade of a weapon. No engines burned, no lights flickered, yet the vessel stood still against gravity, as if the laws of physics bent around it. To the aliens, it was like staring into the face of a god that refused to speak. Panic grew inside the alien bridge. Some officers argued they should destroy it. Others shouted that such an attempt would only awaken its wrath. A commander raised his hand and ordered silence. "We will wait. We will not act. The vessel is cursed. Let it drift." And so the alien fleet held its position, terrified to move closer yet too curious to turn away. They watched in silence, as though staring at a forbidden secret. But then, something happened that no alien expected. A small craft appeared on the edge of the system. It was not alien-made. It was human. The ship was tiny, weak, and carried only one pilot. The aliens laughed at first. Humans were new to the stars, fragile compared to ancient civilizations. What could a single human do against such a mystery? Yet the laughter stopped the moment the human ship drifted toward the forbidden vessel. Instead of silence, instead of denial, the vessel stirred. For the first time in living memory, it moved. The vessel released a deep vibration that shook through every alien sensor. It was not an attack, not a weapon, but a pulse that reached across the void. The human ship received it, and its pilot responded without fear. The aliens could not believe what they were seeing. The forbidden vessel was opening, its black surface shifting like liquid, revealing a passage of pure light. The human ship was being invited in. Panic and disbelief filled the alien fleet. "Impossible," one shouted. "It has denied us for centuries. It has destroyed thousands of our kind. How can it open for a human?" The answer was beyond their understanding. The human vessel glided forward, swallowed by the opening light. Then the passage closed, and silence returned. The human was inside. The aliens scrambled to make sense of it. They sent more signals, stronger waves, desperate attempts to communicate, but the vessel ignored them as always. To them, it was as though they no longer existed. Only the human mattered now. Fear spread like a disease through the fleet. If the forbidden vessel had finally chosen a bond, and if that bond was with humanity, then the universe itself was about to change. Inside their control rooms, the alien commanders whispered among themselves. Some argued to flee and warn their empires. Others said they must attack now before the human completed whatever bond was forming. But even as they debated, deep in their hearts they knew the truth. They had no power here. The vessel was alive, and it had made a choice. For the first time in countless ages, the forbidden vessel had spoken. And it had spoken to a human. The fleet drifted in silence, the stars cold around them. Every alien eye was locked on the vessel, waiting, fearing, and praying that history would not repeat itself. Because if the forbidden vessel truly awakened again, no empire would survive the storm that followed. The human pilot felt his heart racing as his small ship passed through the glowing passage. The light surrounded him, wrapping his vessel in silence. For a moment, he thought he was falling into a star, but then the glow faded and he saw it. He was inside the forbidden vessel. The chamber around him was vast, larger than anything he could imagine, a space that felt endless yet closed. The walls pulsed faintly with light, as if they were alive, breathing in rhythm. The pilot whispered to himself, unsure if he was afraid or amazed. No human had ever seen this before. No alien had ever stepped inside. And yet here he was. Outside, the alien fleet was in chaos. They could not understand what was happening. For them, the forbidden vessel was death, rejection, silence. But now it had opened to a fragile human, something it had never done for any of their kind. Their ships shouted signals, their commanders screamed for answers, but the vessel did not respond. Their cries meant nothing to the ancient machine. It had chosen its guest, and it had shut out the rest of the universe. The pilot unstrapped himself and stood, his legs trembling. The chamber did not feel mechanical. There were no wires, no metal plates, no control panels. Instead, it looked like the inside of a living creature. The walls shimmered like skin, and faint patterns moved like veins carrying light instead of blood. As he took a step, the floor shifted gently, supporting him, guiding him. It felt like walking on something alive, yet it did not harm him. Then a voice spoke. It was not sound, but a thought in his mind. "You are human," it said. He froze. His breath caught. "Yes," he whispered, though he did not speak aloud. The ship had entered his thoughts directly. It spoke again. "I have waited." The words were calm, heavy, and filled with meaning. The pilot tried to understand. Waited for what? The answer echoed in his head like thunder in silence. Waited for your kind. I denied the others. I will not accept them. Only you. The pilot's skin went cold. He knew the stories. Every alien told the same tale. The vessel had rejected them, slaughtered those who tried to force entry, and remained silent to all. Now it was speaking, and it was speaking to him. "Why humans?" he asked softly. The vessel's response was slow, as if choosing its words with care. "Because you carry the spark. They seek control. You seek survival. I will bond only with you." Outside, the aliens grew restless. Their ships edged closer, some raising weapons, others retreating in fear. The commanders argued in fury. If the vessel accepted humans, their empires would fall. They had to act, yet none dared to fire first. They remembered the old warnings. Attacking the forbidden vessel was suicide. Inside, the pilot felt the weight of the moment. His mind was racing. He was just one man, one human far from Earth, caught inside a mystery greater than anything his species had known. But the vessel was alive, aware, and it had chosen him. "What does bond mean?" he asked. The light on the walls grew brighter. "It means we will be one. Your will and mine, joined. I will protect you, and you will guide me." The words filled him with both fear and wonder. To bond with this ship meant power beyond imagination. It also meant responsibility heavier than the stars themselves. The aliens watching outside could only guess what was happening within. Some ships sent desperate probes, small drones carrying cameras and scanners, but the moment they touched the surface of the vessel they dissolved into nothing. It was as if the ship refused even their machines. Only the human was allowed. Only the human had been chosen. The pilot stood still, his heart hammering in his chest. "Why me? I am not special." The vessel's answer came like a whisper and a roar at the same time. "You are human. That is enough." The chamber grew darker for a moment, then pulsed with a deep light that felt like a heartbeat. The pilot realized the vessel was waiting for him to decide. If he accepted, everything would change. If he refused, perhaps the vessel would remain silent again for another 1,000 years. The weight of choice pressed upon him. Outside, the aliens prepared their fleets. Some had already launched weapons, missiles arming silently in the void. The commanders shouted, desperate to end this before it began. They feared the bond, feared what a human with such a vessel could do. The pilot closed his eyes. He did not know why he was chosen, or what it meant for humanity. But he knew one thing with certainty. This ship was not a prison. It was not a curse. It was waiting for someone who could walk inside and not seek to chain it. Slowly, carefully, he whispered in his thoughts, I will listen. The walls brightened, the chamber shook, and the vessel's voice grew stronger. Then we begin. The pilot stood in silence as the vessel's voice filled his mind, heavy and calm, like the sound of an ocean he could not see. The chamber around him shifted, its walls glowing brighter, patterns moving across the surface as though veins of light were flowing with purpose. He could feel the energy pressing against his skin, not painful but powerful, like the heartbeat of a giant. The voice spoke again, more clear this time, and its tone carried both wisdom and sorrow. I was not made to serve them. I was not made to serve anyone. I was made to choose. The pilot swallowed hard, trying to keep his thoughts steady. Choose what? He asked, his voice trembling. The vessel responded, choose a partner. Choose a mind that will not corrupt me. For countless ages, others came. They demanded control. They saw me as a weapon, a throne, a crown to wear upon their heads. But I am not theirs. I denied them all. I ended them when they tried to bind me. Only you do not demand. The words struck the pilot deeply. He remembered the warnings humans had heard from alien traders, the whispered stories of fleets lost without a trace, empires that had dared to claim the forbidden vessel. They were not myths. They were truth. The vessel itself was the one that had destroyed them. The pilot asked softly, you killed them? The chamber pulsed with dim light, almost like a sigh. I defended myself. They came with chains and fire. I answered with silence and death. They could not understand. They only saw my strength, not my purpose. But you entered without force. You entered with fear and curiosity, not greed. The pilot's chest tightened. He felt both honored and terrified. He was only a single man, yet this ship, this ancient being, had trusted him when it had destroyed countless others. The aliens outside were still trying to understand. Their fleets circled in the void, their sensors locked on the vessel, their commanders shouting through comms. Some screamed to fire, others screamed to retreat. None could agree, for they all knew the risk. The forbidden vessel had ended fleets larger than this one. To fire now was to invite death. Yet to wait was to watch their future slip into human hands. The vessel ignored them all, speaking only to its chosen human. I carry memory older than their empires, it whispered in his thoughts. I was made before their kind climbed from the dirt of their worlds. I was created by hands they will never know. I was given a purpose they could never respect. I am not a tool of conquest. I am a guardian waiting for the one who seeks balance, not domination. The pilot closed his eyes, feeling the weight of those words. If this was true, then the vessel was older than every empire, older than every race that now ruled the stars. It was something beyond them all. Why humans? He asked again, his voice barely a whisper. The vessel's light shifted, glowing warmer now, less cold. Because humans are unshaped. They are not perfect. They are not gods. They are flawed, fragile, and reckless. Yet they endure. They fight not for crowns, but for survival. Their hunger is not always for power, but for meaning. That is why I waited for you. The pilot felt his heart pounding. He thought of Earth, of the small blue planet far away, struggling to rise among giants in the galaxy. He thought of humanity's weakness compared to the great empires. And yet this ancient vessel believed in them, chose them over all others. Outside, the alien fleets finally began to move. One ship launched a missile, small and fast, aimed at the vessel's dark hull. The pilot braced for impact, but before the missile could strike, the walls of the chamber pulsed once. A ripple of invisible force spread outward, and the missile simply dissolved into dust. The alien fleet went silent in shock. The pilot gasped. The vessel's voice came again. They will keep trying. They fear what I might become with you. They fear what you might become with me. But you must understand, I am not only a ship. I am alive, and I am bound to a truth greater than war. The chamber shifted again, revealing strange shapes rising from the floor. They looked like structures, glowing pillars, each covered in symbols the pilot did not recognize. His eyes widened as the symbols moved, changing shape until they formed human letters. The vessel was rewriting itself for him. It was teaching him. The words spelled out one message. Do not let them take me. If they succeed, all will fall. The pilot's breath shook. Then what do I do? He asked. The vessel's response was steady, final. Bond with me. Share your mind with mine. Guide me, and I will guard you. Refuse, and I will return to silence, and they will destroy you. The choice was laid bare before him. One human, standing inside a secret that could shatter empires, was being asked to bond with a living vessel older than history itself. His hands trembled, his heart raced, and in the darkness of space the alien fleets watched, helpless and terrified, waiting to see what the human would choose. The alien fleets trembled in silence as the forbidden vessel pulsed with living light, its surface alive with shifting shadows that none of them could understand. For generations, their archives had carried warnings. Do not approach, do not provoke, do not attempt to claim it. Yet here it was, awake again, and this time it had chosen a human. Panic spread like fire through the ranks of commanders. Messages flew between ships, encrypted codes sent in haste, fleets from different empires arguing and shouting across comms. Some wanted to flee and carry the warning back to their rulers. Others demanded they attack now, before the vessel and its human bonded completely. But all of them feared what such an attack would bring, for history had shown the truth many times before. Empires had tried. Empires had burned. Inside their ships, alien officers stared at their screens, watching the glowing chamber from which no data returned. Their sensors showed nothing but static, their scans dissolved into dust, their machines refused to touch the forbidden vessel. They saw only the human ship vanish inside, swallowed by the opening light, and now they saw the vessel awaken in ways it had not for centuries. It will side with them, one commander growled, his voice shaking with rage and fear. If this continues, humanity will rise above us all. We cannot allow it. Another shouted in reply. Then fire your weapons and let us all be destroyed? You know what happens when we provoke it. Do you wish your fleet to vanish as others have? Their arguments filled the comm channels with chaos, each empire terrified that the balance of power was already lost. The forbidden vessel was not just a ship, it was a symbol, a shadow over the galaxy that no one had ever defeated. Now, with a single human, it was stirring again. Rumors spread like poison among the fleets. Some officers whispered that the vessel was a god, choosing humanity as its children. Others whispered that it was a curse, a destroyer that would drag humans into their graves. But no one could deny the truth that burned before their eyes. The vessel had bonded with none of them, and yet it had opened for the human. A wave of fear rushed through the ranks, fear not only of death but of the future. If the vessel became humanity's ally, then every empire would be forced to bow. The commanders held desperate councils, their faces twisted with dread. We must warn the core worlds, one said. Our rulers must know before it is too late. Another replied, there is no time. Once bonded, it will leave, and then we will have no chance to stop it. If we act now. The fleets shifted uneasily in the void, their weapons slowly powering up, energy building in their cannons. Yet none dared to fire first. They knew the stories too well. A single shot could invite destruction faster than they could imagine. And still, hesitation was dangerous. for hesitation gave the human more time. The alien soldiers, sitting at their stations, could feel the tension pressing down like gravity. Their hands hovered over controls, waiting for the order that might decide the fate of galaxies. They did not want to die, but they feared living in a universe ruled by humans holding the forbidden vessel. Outside, the vessel pulsed again, and the fleets recoiled in terror. No weapons had been fired, yet ships fell back as though pushed by an invisible hand. They whispered to each other, swearing they could feel it staring at them, though it had no eyes. Every crew member felt like prey caught in the gaze of a predator too old and too wise to be fooled. The panic reached its peak when one of the smaller empires broke. A nervous captain screamed across the comms, ordering his ships to retreat. Engines flared, and a dozen vessels turned to flee into the dark. The larger empires cursed them as cowards, but secretly their officers envied the decision. None wanted to be the first to die. Yet even as those ships fled, the forbidden vessel stirred again. A ripple of power rolled across space, invisible but undeniable, and the fleeing ships were gone, dissolved into nothing. No explosion, no wreckage, only silence. The message was clear. The vessel had allowed no retreat. The fleets froze, horror burning through them. "It is awake," one commander whispered. "It will not let us escape. We are trapped here." The comms went quiet then, the shouting replaced by grim silence as the truth set in. They were surrounded not by a fleet, not by an empire, but by one vessel, a vessel that had denied every race and destroyed all who dared to claim it. And now it had chosen humanity. Inside the chamber, the pilot did not yet know what had happened outside, but he could feel the tension in the vessel's voice. It was aware of the fleets, aware of their panic, aware of the fragile moment where war could erupt in an instant. The alien commanders, pale with fear, gave their final orders. Some whispered prayers to gods that would never answer. Others clenched their jaws and prepared for death. Because in the shadow of the forbidden vessel, there were no victories, only survival, or silence. The void trembled as the alien fleets finally broke their silence. Fear had chained them for hours, but fear of the future was heavier than fear of the vessel. One commander gave the order, his voice harsh and desperate, and hundreds of weapons came alive. Energy beams lit the darkness, missiles streaked through the stars, plasma fire roared toward the forbidden vessel with fury enough to destroy a planet. The fleets shouted in triumph, believing that overwhelming force might achieve what ages of history could not. But the vessel did not move. It did not dodge. It did not hide. Instead, its dark surface rippled like water, and in the next moment the storm of destruction dissolved into nothing. Missiles crumbled into dust, beams bent away as though the stars themselves refused to burn the vessel, and the fleets were left in silence once more. Terror filled their ranks, but desperation pushed them further. More commands echoed across the channels, more fire was unleashed, and still the forbidden vessel remained untouchable. Inside the living chamber, the human pilot felt the pulse of power vibrate through his body. He stumbled to his knees, clutching his head as the voice of the vessel thundered in his mind. "They have chosen death. They cannot stop me. But I will not fight without your answer." The pilot gasped, trying to breathe against the crushing weight of that voice. "You mean, you need me to choose?" The vessel responded with calm certainty. "I can fight alone, but with you I will fight with purpose. If you accept, I will bind myself to your will. If you refuse, I will return to silence, and they will all be destroyed by blind instinct. Choose now." Outside, the alien fleets continued their assault, their voices filled with rage and panic. Some begged for retreat, others screamed to press forward, but none could break free. Their weapons fired again and again, burning the stars with fury, yet the vessel's dark hull absorbed it all. For the first time, they realized the truth. This was not just a machine. This was something alive, something that could not be killed by fire. The pilot felt his heart pounding in his chest, his mind racing as he looked at the glowing walls around him. He thought of Earth, of humanity still small among the stars, struggling to find a place among powers older and stronger. He thought of how easily the vessel could end not only the fleets outside but entire empires. And then he thought of what it meant if he said yes. He would not just be a pilot anymore. He would be the will of a weapon older than history, a guardian that no alien could resist. His voice shook as he whispered, "If I bond with you, will anyone survive?" The vessel's reply was deep and certain. "If you bond with me, survival will not be random. Together we will choose who lives. Together we will create balance. Without you, I will destroy without purpose." The choice burned inside him. The aliens outside screamed in desperation, their ships pushing closer, their weapons red with fire. A massive cruiser charged forward, releasing a beam strong enough to cut a moon in half. The pilot saw the glow through the walls, felt the tremor of power, and for a heartbeat he thought the vessel might fall. But instead, the chamber pulsed with a bright light, and the beam split apart like glass shattering in water. The cruiser exploded into fragments, torn apart by its own weapon, and silence followed once again. The fleets froze. No one spoke. No one fired. They all knew they had awakened something they could not defeat. The pilot trembled, sweat dripping down his face. He could not escape the weight of the moment. He was only one man, yet the fate of empires hung in his decision. He pressed his hand to the glowing wall, feeling it pulse like a living heart. "I don't want to be a destroyer," he whispered. The vessel's voice softened, almost gentle now. "Then be my guide. I am power without direction. You are direction without power. Alone we are incomplete. Together we will be balance." Outside, the alien commanders finally broke under the weight of their fear. They screamed orders for full retreat, ships turning in panic, engines burning to escape the death that surrounded them. But the vessel would not allow it. Another pulse spread across the void, invisible and silent, and the retreating ships simply vanished, erased from existence as though they had never been. The remaining fleets froze in horror, trapped between survival and doom. The pilot closed his eyes, knowing the truth at last. The universe would not let him walk away. The vessel would not let him. Humanity would never get another chance like this. Slowly, with a trembling voice, he whispered into the silence, "I will fight with you." The vessel roared with light, the chamber blinding, the walls pulsing like a living star. "Then we are one," it declared. The pilot felt his mind stretch, his thoughts merging with something vast and ancient, his body trembling as his soul touched the vessel's core. Outside, the fleets watched in despair as the forbidden vessel came alive in full power, its surface blazing with energy, its voice silent but its message clear. The trial of fire had ended, and humanity had been chosen. The human pilot stood in the glowing chamber, his hand pressed against the living wall as his mind shook from the bond he had just accepted. The vessel's voice echoed inside him now, not as a stranger but as a part of his own thoughts. It no longer felt like words spoken from outside, it was like his own heart whispering back at him. The connection was terrifying, powerful, yet strangely comforting, like standing beside a storm that promised to protect him instead of tear him apart. Outside, the alien fleets were breaking apart in fear, their commanders screaming for retreat, their ships twisting into chaos as they tried to escape. But none of them could move without glancing back at the vessel, glowing brighter than ever, its silent promise of destruction hanging over them like a blade. Inside, the pilot felt the weight of his choice pressing down. He had bonded with the vessel, but now he had to decide what came next. The aliens were begging for peace through desperate transmissions, their voices frantic with terror. They offered treaties, surrender, even promises to erase records of the vessel if only it would leave them unharmed. Their words filled the comms like a river of desperation, and the pilot could hear them all through the vessel's mind. "They fear you," the vessel said. "They fear what you have become with me. They will never trust you. They will never allow humanity to rise while I am with you." The pilot swallowed hard, his chest tight. He did not want to be a tyrant, did not want to be the destroyer of civilizations. But he also knew the vessel spoke the truth. The aliens could not accept what had just happened. Humanity had been chosen by something older than their empires, something stronger than their fleets. To them, this was not balance. It was terror. and terrified empires would always strike again. The pilot whispered, "So what do I do? Do I kill them all? Do I burn their fleets until they beg to never return?" The vessel pulsed with dim light, its voice calm but unyielding. "That is one path. To erase them is to silence their threat forever. But another path exists. You can let them live, knowing they will spread fear of you. They will warn others. And the galaxy will learn not to approach humanity, not to challenge humanity. Fear is also a shield." The pilot felt his stomach twist. Both choices were heavy, both choices filled with danger. If he destroyed the fleets, he would become what they feared most, a weapon of extinction. If he spared them, humanity would be marked forever, seen as the species that wielded the forbidden vessel. There would be no going back, no quiet return to being small and ignored. The pilot closed his eyes, hearing the voices of alien commanders screaming, begging, cursing, threatening, all at once. His heart ached with the weight of it. He was not a king, not a leader, not a hero. He was just a man who had stumbled into something greater than himself. Yet the vessel had chosen him, and now the galaxy was waiting for his answer. Outside, the fleets trembled at every pulse of light from the vessel. Some ships powered down their weapons completely, surrendering without orders. Others readied suicide runs, prepared to die rather than live under the shadow of humanity's rise. The balance was fragile, every second a moment where history could shatter. The vessel whispered again, this time softer. "I will not force you. I am your shield, not your master. Whatever you choose, I will honor it." The pilot opened his eyes, staring into the living walls, seeing his own reflection in the light. He thought of Earth again, of people who still looked at the stars with hope, not fear. He thought of humanity's dream to explore, to live, not to conquer. And he realized the truth. He could not begin humanity's rise with blood and fire. If he did, they would never escape the same path as the empires around them. Slowly he whispered, "I choose mercy. Let them live. Let them carry their fear with them. It will be enough." The vessel pulsed with bright light, stronger than before, but the voice in his mind carried warmth. "Mercy chosen. Balance begins." Outside, the alien fleets shook as the power that had been pressing down on them suddenly lifted. Their ships staggered in the void, weapons cooling, engines still trembling with fear. They had been spared. Not by their strength, not by their numbers, but by the decision of a single human standing inside a living relic. The commanders were silent, their voices lost, their pride shattered. They had faced extinction and had survived only because the forbidden vessel's human chose not to end them. The pilot exhaled slowly, his body trembling, but his heart steadier than before. He had made his choice, and the galaxy would feel its weight. He knew they would not forgive, he knew they would not forget, but now they would remember humanity not as prey, not as weak newcomers, but as the species that bonded with the vessel and chose mercy instead of destruction. The vessel's voice came once more, calm and final. "The path is set. They will fear you. They will hate you. But they will never forget you. And now, together, we will walk into the stars." The void was silent after the choice was made, and for the first time since the fleets had gathered, no weapons fired, no voices screamed, and no ships dared to move. The forbidden vessel glowed with steady light, its surface alive with patterns of energy that rippled like the skin of a star, and inside it the human pilot stood with his heart still trembling from the decision he had made. He had chosen mercy, he had spared the fleets that had come to destroy him, and in doing so he had carved a path that none of the alien commanders could understand. The aliens stared at their screens, their hands frozen above their controls, their minds unable to grasp why the vessel had not ended them. For centuries they had lived in fear of it, and now they saw the truth with their own eyes. It had accepted a human, it had awakened fully, and it had chosen to let them live. Their fear grew heavier than their weapons, because they knew mercy was more terrifying than death. Death was an ending, but mercy was a reminder, a shadow that would follow them for all time. In their hearts they understood that they could never erase what they had seen. Humanity had been chosen, and no force in the galaxy could undo that bond. Inside the living chamber, the pilot felt the vessel's presence merging deeper into his mind, no longer just a voice but a companion, a second heartbeat that pulsed alongside his own. He did not feel trapped or chained, instead he felt lifted, expanded, as if his thoughts stretched into the stars themselves. Every light in the sky carried meaning now, every vibration in the void sang like a note in a grand song he could finally hear. The vessel whispered softly, "The dawn has come. Your people will not be the same again." The pilot swallowed hard, his hands shaking as he looked into the glowing walls. "They are not ready," he whispered. "Humanity is still young. They are still fragile." The vessel's reply was calm and certain. "That is why I chose you. Power given to the strong becomes tyranny. Power given to the weak becomes survival. Humanity will grow because it must. And with me, they will not grow alone." Outside, the fleets began to scatter slowly, not in retreat by command but in silent flight driven by fear. No one dared to fire again, no one dared to speak threats. They left in silence, carrying the weight of what they had witnessed, their ships fading into the dark, their minds already crafting warnings for their rulers. In time, every empire would know the truth. The forbidden vessel was no longer silent, and its bond was not with them but with humanity. The pilot knew this was only the beginning. He could already imagine the whispers that would spread, the meetings of alien councils filled with panic, the desperate strategies to contain what had been unleashed. Some would plan war, others would plan surrender, but all of them would fear. He felt the vessel's thoughts brush against his own, steadying his fear. "Do not see fear as weakness," it said. "Fear will keep them from striking too soon. Fear will give your people time to grow." The pilot nodded slowly, though he still felt the weight of the galaxy pressing against him. He was only one man, yet he had become the voice of something older than stars. He did not know if he was ready, but the choice had already been made. The vessel pulsed with light, and suddenly the chamber around him shifted. The walls folded away, and a vast view of the stars opened before him. He was standing at the center of the vessel's core, looking out into the endless expanse of space. It was beautiful, infinite, and terrifying. The vessel's voice rose inside him, strong and steady. "Where shall we go, partner?" The words struck him with their weight. He could guide this being, this living ship, into the unknown. He could take it to Earth, revealing to humanity that they were no longer small, no longer weak, but chosen. Or he could take it into the far reaches, away from home, shaping a new destiny among the stars before the empires could react. His chest tightened with the enormity of the decision, but he knew that every path forward now belonged to him and the vessel together. Slowly, he whispered, "We go forward. Wherever the stars lead." The vessel roared with light, engines that were not engines awakening, space itself bending around them as the forbidden vessel prepared to move. Outside, the last alien fleets watched in silence, too afraid to follow, too afraid to stop them. And then, with a soundless flash, the vessel leapt into the unknown, vanishing from their sight, leaving only fear and silence behind. For the first time in countless ages, the galaxy trembled not because of war but because of what might come next. Humanity, once small and fragile, had been lifted into a place none could have imagined. The forbidden vessel had chosen, and its choice was clear. Together, human and vessel had stepped into a new dawn, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what humanity would do with the power it now carried.